Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we're going to be continuing Naruto DxD, Rise of the Dragon. What if Naruto was in HighSchool DxD, Season 2, Part 1, the Remastered Edition. As always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and you like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. So we now stroll into Season 2, and in our retelling of a classic here on this channel, the first story that I ever did when relaunching my YouTube career, things have taken a different turn in many ways. For those of you who are unaware, when I first started doing what ifs and different stories, this was the first one that I had ever done, Naruto in HighSchool DxD. However, I can admit that going back now, there were a lot of things that I didn't really flesh out the way I wanted to. I didn't really have power scaling the way that I wanted to have it figured out. And even though I'm personally happy with the success that the first series got, I could have done a lot better. So you could say that this is my second chance at doing so. So with a series like this, I have different ways of telling the story. You could say that if the first one is my Full Metal Alchemist, this is my Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This series, the Remastered Edition, will be the official canon series of this story. If you want to watch the first one, you're more than welcome to if you enjoy it, but I will admit the audio may not be fully the best since I had a lot of limited resources when I first started doing this compared to what I've done now. And again, the story, it's a bit rushed, it's a bit choppy here in certain places, and in the end, I didn't really get to finish it the way that I wanted to, so I want to do things differently this time around. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's story. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Naruto slowly opened his eyes as he awoke in his bed. It had been another night of fulfilling contracts and doing various missions, if you could call it that, now that he found himself in the service of the House of Grimmery. Although Naruto would quickly see that his bed was not only filled with himself, but with other bodies. As he slowly lifted the covers under him, he could see the figures of three particular girls. The girls that had been staying at his home ever since his return from the underworld after saving Rias from marriage to Riser. It was Rias, Asia, and Rainier. They all were sleeping soundly, and that wasn't really the issue. It was the fact that they left nothing to be desired. Naruto quickly found himself in a predicament that he never thought he'd be in. Now, by no means was Naruto not into girls. No. Naruto was a healthy boy like many others his age. Of course, he didn't go about shouting his deepest and most darkest of desires to everyone for the world to see, no, but the boy still had the same feelings that any other would have. And when you have three beautiful girls, all with different shapes and sizes, all gathered together underneath your bed, well, you can only imagine how one would feel in that moment. In fact, there was a part of Naruto that wanted to give in to those cardinal desires. But then he remembered something. He remembered his training in the astral plane, and he remembered the stern warning he had been given by his mother, to always remember the three shinobi prohibitions. As such, and remembering the fear of God, so to speak, that was struck inside of him, Naruto thought twice before doing anything indecent. However, he wasn't human, at least not technically anymore, so did those same rules still apply? No. The fear of his mother was struck into him. It didn't matter if he was human, devil, or whatever amalgamation he wanted to be. He was still the son of Kushina Uzumaki, and that type of tomfoolery would not be tolerated under any circumstances. As all the girls slowly started to steer and wake up, they would all greet Naruto happily before eyeing one another. It seems they had all had the same idea and they all found themselves in Naruto's room. Of course, Naruto wasn't against this, but it was cramped and they had to get ready for school. Also, they were going to have their meetings for the club at Naruto's house, since the club room was being cleaned for spring cleaning or something like that. All the same, Naruto was adjusting rather fine. Fulfilling contracts wasn't what he thought it'd be. There was no demanding of souls or some dark ritual or things of that nature. It was actually run like a business. Of course, the purpose of why they did what they did honestly made no sense until it was explained that it was, in a lot of retrospects, just how things functioned. Naruto found himself being an errand boy, more or less, the flying Raijin proving to be very effective for traveling across the town, as Naruto could just plant his flying Raijin kunai at different markers. And thankfully, he found someone who could make him a ton of the kunais that he needed in Kiba. Of course, he particularly made swords with his ability, but a small 3-pointed knife could count as a small sword. So, after Kiba seeing how the flying Raijin kunai was shaped and functioned, he was able to make a bunch of them for Naruto. It meant that Naruto didn't have to save up all of his money to have one especially made for him, and he could just store them away in various scrolls that he could just keep on his person. So in effect, Naruto had a good supply of weaponry on his side. Of course, everyone was improving in their new roles, especially Rainier. She had finally felt more relaxed, more at peace. For a while, there was something that felt like it were looming over her, an uneasy feeling. But Rainier, she finally was able to be comfortable. As Naruto was in school, he had to go to a special room, private and away from the other students, along with Akeno. The problem had been ever since his fight with Riser. His power, or well, whatever this thing was that was inside of him, it was acting up and not for the best. Trying to keep the power of the dragon at bay as well as maintaining the seal over the Nine Tails, it was easier said than done. It was like the two powers were always at conflict with one another. It took all of Naruto's strength and fortitude to keep the seal in place, and from time to time he'd have to try to readjust it to the best of his abilities because it had a tendency to crack and leak. However, the dragon's power was a different story. However, Akeno could help with that. Although her form of help was not what Naruto would have had in mind, as the help found him sitting on a couch in nothing but his gym shorts, and Akeno wearing a robe, looking like she had stepped fresh out of a shower. And from what Naruto could feel, there was nothing underneath that robe. All nothing but imagination, open air, and opportunity. Akeno had methods of getting out the dragon's power, a method that she particularly liked, a method that involved, a lot of licking, a lot of sucking of something of the long variety. And I know what you're thinking, but no, it was nothing below the belt. It was actually his left indexed finger. Although honestly, what she could do with that finger, it made Naruto wonder what else she could do if she were given the chance. No, Naruto, no. Remember the prohibitions. Naruto really had to try to keep his mental fortitude together, but it was hard to do so. Akeno was a beautiful girl. Anyone would be lucky to have her. Naruto felt his heart racing almost a mile a minute, and Akeno could feel this. She smiled happily as she teased him some. You shouldn't be so nervous around me, Naruto. Seriously, you have such strong mental fortitude. Breaking you will not be an easy task. Breaking? What are you trying to break? Oh, I don't know. You tell me. Break our limits, break our ceilings, maybe break this couch. Oh, Yeah, so, how about that, dragon power? It's all gone for the most part. I was able to get most of it rather effectively. Although I must say, that other power of yours, it's quite intriguing. You mean my chakra? Well, yes. It's not so different from magic, although I can tell that it's definitely a blend of something entirely unique. I can't really quite put my finger on it, but even still, I must say it's rather invigorating. You definitely have stamina that isn't like that of the average devil, although I attribute that to your genes. You definitely came from a good family lineage. The power that you have naturally, it's all but incredible. Whatever you're doing to keep that fox inside of you, you're doing it by your own strength. And I must say, that's rather impressive. Oh, yeah. Well, apparently, the fox has always been sealed within my family's lineage for some reason. It's said that our chakra was the most compatible for keeping the nine tails in check, although, truthfully, my mother was probably a lot better at it than I am. I'm only 50% Uzumaki. But even still, so much for only 50%. I can tell you truly have put in a lot of effort into your training. Oh, thank you, so much. Trying to balance two halves of yourself, being pulled in opposite directions. Akano would find herself thinking, he's a lot like me after all. However, they would quickly come to an end and Naruto would go about the rest of his day as normal. After the end of the school day, everyone would be gathered at Naruto's home, more specifically Naruto's room, to go over the contract count for the month. Akano had the most at 11, Koneko at 10, Kiba at 8, Asuya at 3, Reiner at 2, and surprisingly, Naruto had gotten 6 for himself. Of course, this was attributed to his skills in particular. For him, his contracts were little more than him being a delivery boy. Although, who could blame him? With the flying Raijin, Naruto could pop in and out of anywhere all across this town, maybe even the world if he really wanted to. Of course, Naruto had never tested the idea, but maybe if he mailed a flying Raijin kunai to Hawaii, then maybe he could get back and forth with ease. After all, that'd be less flyer miles and it'd be a lot more efficient, but Naruto would put that idea on the back burner for now. However, the more embarrassing part came when Naruto's mother entered into the room with a photo album of all of his baby pictures. The girls were all too quick to take a look inside, even Asuya and Reiner, as they had not gotten to see much of it. Naruto was only left with more embarrassment as they all looked through at some of his more cuter moments when he was a smaller child. One particular photo of baby Naruto dressed up as a frog. The frog always seemed to be Naruto's favorite animal, and they couldn't help but have just this lovely fluttery feeling in their hearts seeing baby Naruto dressed up like a frog and hopping around going ribbit. Of course, Naruto shook his head in disarray. However, Kiba would try to keep the mood light. That was until he saw something in particular. A photo of Naruto and a kid he used to hang out with, although he didn't remember much about the kid and they didn't stay for too long. But the bigger issue was what was behind them in their photo. It was a sword. Of course, Naruto didn't really pay much attention to it, but Kiba would explain that that sword was not anything of the faint of heart. It was actually a holy sword. Naruto would be perturbed by that statement, trying to figure out just what on earth a holy sword could be doing around him. Of course, Kiba would tell him not to worry about it, and Naruto would try to keep it out of his mind for now, although even still he could see that it had bothered Kiba to some degree. Later on that night, Naruto would be called out for yet another summoning. It was with an older individual. The man didn't seem too old though, maybe in his late 30s, early 40s. His hair was a mixture of blonde streaks and black streaks. He wore a black kimono as he welcomed Naruto in. He didn't want much from Naruto, the two of them just having small talk and conversation, the man being rather impressed with Naruto's speed and efficiency, and the fact that he didn't have to use a summoning circle. Of course, Naruto would explain that when it came to using that sort of magic, it wasn't really his strong suit. However, using the body flicker was more than enough for him. The stranger was intrigued as Naruto tried to explain some of his backstory. Of course, to telling anyone about this, it would sound like it was something preposterous. That you came from another world, that the god of all shinobi contacted your father in a dream, telling you to send your son far away to keep him safe. It just sounded completely ludicrous. And then on top of that, you have a weird nine-tailed fox spirit sealed inside of you, along with a dragon that's sealed inside of a gauntlet that shows up on your arm. I mean, this just sounds like one person's weird fanfic, or someone having a fever dream. However, the man didn't judge Naruto at all. He listened to everything he had to say and was pretty intrigued. If everything was to be believed, then Naruto had managed to do well for himself, adjusting to his new world and new surroundings, and he hoped that Naruto enjoyed his stay here. Of course, when it came time for him to leave, his payment was a very expensive piece of artwork. Naruto didn't mind taking it since it was a form of compensation, and he figured it'd earn him some brownie points. Naruto carried the painting on his back as he was jumping from rooftop to rooftop heading home when he got a phone call from Rias. They had a job to do, a stray that had to be taken down. She would ask for Naruto's arrival, and Naruto would tell her that he'd be there in a flash. All she had to do was take the flying Raijin kunai that he had given her and flip it into the air, and he'd show up instantly. Although he would warn that if anyone was around for them to back up so that they didn't get hit when he landed. Rias would understand and everyone would take back a step as she took out the flying Raijin kunai that she always kept on her and threw it into the air. In an instant, Naruto appeared before everyone, landing gracefully, with the painting in hand and catching the kunai before it fell, handing it back to Rias and smiling. Rias would smile back also, never getting tired of seeing that trick. It was cool and also comforting in a way, to know that Naruto could always be by her side at a moment's notice whenever she called. Naruto would set down the painting and would ask what the situation was. There was a stray that they had to take down, and Rias would get everyone into position. Naruto would lead Kiba and Koneko on the inside, with Asuya standing back next to Rias, and with Reiner and Akeno flying over, ready to take down the stray once it came out. Naruto, once he had the situation assessed, would go with the next logical option. He, Kiba, and Koneko would get into Manji Formation Delta. Koneko taking the front, Kiba taking the side, and Naruto guarding the rear. However, Kiba didn't seem focused. Naruto would snap at him to try to get into his head to let him know that they had to stay on guard for this sort of thing. Kiba nodded and the three would make their way inside. Naruto, Kiba, and Koneko would scope around the area. It was dark inside of the abandoned warehouse, which was typical for strays to try to hide in. However, it didn't take long for the stray to make herself known. A weird spider monster amalgamation, or whatever it was. Koneko would stay on guard, grabbing it by the forefront, trying to avoid its webbing as Naruto created two clones. The clones instantly throwing flying Raijin kunais towards the spider, looking to get the drop on it with the flying thunder god technique and kicking it down to Koneko and for Kiba to incapacitate. However, when they did so, Kiba flinched once again, Koneko nearly being harmed in the process unless Naruto had gotten her out of the way, although her arm had been slashed. Kiba managed to snap out of it long enough to land the attack necessary to send it out, and this was where Reiner and Akeno got to shine. Thanks to their training with Naruto, they took their techniques of using their elements to the next level, and they had even come up with a combination attack. With Rainier, she would create a ball of light that flew high into the sky, and the ball of light would instantly break apart into smaller ones, the smaller balls of light transforming in shape, turning into Sinbon. This is what Rainier called her light Sinbon technique. And with Akeno, she would channel her mystic lightning through the light Sinbon. This was known as their Sinbon light paralyzing technique. The little light spears shooting into the stray, with volts of electricity surging through, paralyzing it and keeping it from moving, allowing for Rias to go in and launch the finishing blow. It had been effective, and they had managed to take down the stray as ordered. Naruto was thrilled to see that they were able to come through, and Asio worked to heal on Koneko. However, Kiba would take a slap to the face from Rias, as a way of admonishing him for what he had done. If it hadn't been for Naruto and his quick thinking, things might have gotten a bit out of hand, and it didn't help that Kiba didn't stay focused. Rias was still concerned for him, and she wondered what was wrong. However, Kiba didn't really want to talk about it. The only thing that mattered to Kiba was, well, just being on his own. Naruto would try to speak to Kiba also, telling him that if something were bothering him, then they could talk about it. Kiba thanked Naruto, but in the end, he really just didn't want to be bothered. Kiba would leave them all, and Rias would be just as concerned as before. Of course, the next day would come, and Naruto would wake up to the same familiar sight, once again reminding himself of the shinobi prohibitions. The shinobi prohibitions must always be adhered to, no matter what world you are in. That was something Naruto had to keep in mind, even though the temptation was definitely great. However, what would really surprise Naruto, once he was left alone in his room, was that Dreg would actually speak to him. "So, it seems you're getting along well." Who said that?" "Look down at your left hand." "Oh, it's you. Dreg, right?" "Yes, it is I, the being that dwells within the sacred gear." "Oh, well, how are you getting along with him?" "The fox is a pest, and I must warn you, the reason why your seal seems to be coming undone is due to his work." "Yeah, I've kind of figured that for a while now. His chakra seems to interfere with mine, which makes keeping the seal in place a lot more troublesome than it's worth. Honestly, I'm surprised how much power it's taking for me to keep it in place. It's taking over 98% to be precise." "What? That's how much power I've been expending this whole time to keep this thing at bay? You mean I only have 2% of my power access?" "In a roundabout way, yes. You've only been fighting with 2% of your power." Naruto would almost be shaken by this. He had managed to accomplish a lot with only around 2%. If it wasn't for this damn fox, then there's no telling what he could be capable of doing. "It's very impressive. I'd say that the boosted gear was made for you in this regard, to boost up your 2%. It shows that you're more than effective as a fighter. If you could have access to your full amount of power, then you would truly be limitless in that regard." "Oh, I see. So why have you started talking to me? Is something wrong?" "I sense a great power that's been stirring around you, and it's not from the others. I barely register them nowadays. This feels like the scent of dragon. To be more specific, my kin, the sky dragons." "The sky dragons?" "Yes. There used to be many of us, but now our numbers have been reduced. In terms of overall, the number of sky dragons that still exist, I believe, are only 4, including myself, of course." "I see. But who are the other dragons?" "They are dragons of legend. those who held great power and sway. I am the dragon of domination, but there is also the vanishing dragon, the white dragon. There's the nullifying dragon, the gold dragon, and then there's the storm dragon, or the blue dragon, to be more specific. Their names are those that have lived on in legend. The white dragon, Albion. The gold dragon, Morgana. And the blue dragon, the master of the storms, Susanoo. Susanoo? I thought Susanoo was a Shinto god. Yes, but to be more specific, Susanoo was a dragon, a master of the storms. It was said that he could conjure and could control the elements at will. Wow, that actually sounds pretty dangerous. You're saying that they're all out there? Hard to say. I can't remember the last time I've seen any of them. I often come into conflict with the white dragon. However, you should not let your guard down against the gold or the blue should they appear. I see. Well, thanks for the heads up. Naruto went about his day as normal. However, Kiba didn't show up to school. Everyone was worried about him, especially Koneko. However, Naruto gave her a promise, assuring her that everything was going to be fine. Kiba was going to be safe, and soon he'd be back with them again. Koneko felt comforted by this, hearing Naruto's words. She felt like they were words that she could trust. She didn't think that Naruto would make a promise that he couldn't keep. In the meantime, Rias and Akeno would go for a private meeting with Sona and Tsubaki, discussing some recent events. One being that 3 members of the church had shown up, looking for Rias specifically, and that they'd be coming back for a meeting. Of course, Rias didn't really like the sound of this, just wondering what members of the church could want with her, of all people. In the meantime, Naruto, along with Asuya and Reiner, would make their way back home when Naruto had a feeling. It was a familiar feeling, one that Reiner recognized also. It was the feeling he had when he went inside that church, but also, it was the same feeling he had when he felt that bloodlust. Without saying a word, Naruto would race to his home ahead of the others, opening the door and yelling out for his mother. Mom! Mom, where are you? Naruto would race through the room before finding a room that was well lit. As he walked inside, he saw his mother was sitting down on the couch fine, and there were 3 others sitting on the opposite side. All 3 of them were dressed in rather priestly attire and robe. 2 girls and a boy. The boy smiled as he looked towards Naruto. So, this is the one that took my place. Well, I'm glad to see that Mother's had someone to care for her all this time. Who are you? The young man would stand and smile. Ah, shucks. I'm sorry for barging in on you like this, but my friend Irina here says she knew you and she wanted to stop by for a visit. This is Zenobia, and me, you can call me Sero. The trio wouldn't stay for long, and Rias would arrive soon after. She was concerned, and she was glad to see that Naruto, Asuya, and Reiner were all safe. She apologized for not being more diligent and for leaving them potentially in harm's way, although they assured her that everything was fine for the most part. The next day, the same 3 would arrive, and to say that the meeting was tense would be an understatement. The reason for the meeting was quite simple. Out of the 6 holy swords, 3 of them had been stolen, and apparently it was by fallen angels. Rainier would twitch a little bit if that mentioned. It made sense. Before she left, she had heard the rumblings of there being yet another plan, and that the plan involved potentially taking the holy swords for themselves. Although, she never would have believed that the group would have managed to do it. She knew one thing for sure. Whoever was involved wasn't acting under the orders of their leader. That much was for certain. Naruto wondered just what more could there be towards these holy swords. Just what could they have been getting after this whole time? However, Zenobia, unlike Irina and Zero, she chose to be rather blunt and to the point. The reason for the meeting was simple. It was to make sure that the devils didn't play any role in this caper, and to make sure that they stayed out of this affair. Of course, Rias was a bit insulted by this, but she kept her composure, as she assured them that she had no interest in working with the Fallen in any way. Zenobia was happy with this, noting that holy swords were very dangerous to their kind. Naruto would ask just how dangerous could they be, and Rias would explain that it didn't matter how strong of a devil you might be, a holy sword was something that no one could truly train to fight against. Even someone as powerful as her brother, if he was fatally wounded by a sword of that magnitude, there'd be no question that he would die. This would actually put some things into perspective for Naruto. Even for the devils, their power was not so immune that they couldn't take any lethal damage. And to die from the hands of a holy sword, it was something that there'd be no coming back from. Of course, Zenobia wasn't just going to stop there, as her eyes fell upon both Asya and Rainier. Well, it seems the House of Grimly sure do keep fine company, it seems. If you can invite the likes of a Wiccan and the Fallen into your ranks. Who I allow in my household is my business, and you'd be wise to stay out of it. I'm just saying, you can't expect me to fully trust you when you have her kind in your midst. And you, someone who once believed and had faith, and yet you have fallen so low. Tell me, do you feel no shame, Asya Argento? Zero would try to calm Zenobia down and de-escalate. However, Naruto was getting more and more pissed every time she spoke. However, it was when she offered Asya execution as a way of repentance that he finally snapped. And just what gives you the right to say anything like that to her? Everyone tried to calm Naruto down, but he wasn't having it. You know, she loves and believes in God more faithfully than anyone else that I've ever seen. And you want to know something? When she was in trouble, when she needed help, where were any of you? Nowhere. You know, I once heard something, that those who are without sin should cast the first stone. Well, I got plenty of stones worth throwing at all of you, and I ain't even perfect myself. Big talk, Fox Boy. We've heard about your escapades, hearing of your recent victory over Riser Phoenix. However, do not let that go to your head. Best and believe, the power of my sword of destruction is more than enough to cut down the likes of you. I'd like to see you try. I don't give a damn how many of those holy swords you got. If you come after Rainier or Asya or any of my friends, you're answering to me. And I'll take every last single one of you down. You'll never badmouth her. Not in my presence, if you know what's good for you. You certainly are a feisty one. However, pride does often come before the fall. You should learn to take your own advice, Kiba would say as he walked into the room. And who are you? I'm your superior, that's who. And I have my own grudge against those that wield the holy swords. I see, so you as well. Zenobia, Ciro would say. We didn't come here to start a fight. Why are you antagonizing them? I see no reason for us to lower ourselves to their kind. Look, save it, Naruto would say. I don't want to hear it. I understand. And trust and believe I do want to keep the peace. However, if you're going to make threats towards my comrades, then I can't turn a blind eye to that. I'm sorry, but that's just the way things are. If you're looking for a fight, then you got one. It's not what I want. Trust me, I'd rather be rolling around in some double D's right now. Sick! Irina would cover her mouth. She had almost said the name that she was not meant to say, and Ciro looked at her with a daggering glare. How about a spar? Zenobia would say. I'm sure the three of us could use the exercise, and it seems you and the loner over there are looking for a fight. Do you have a third that will join you? I will. Everyone turned and saw that the one who had spoken up was Koniko. If you three want to fight, then I'll fight with them. And with that, the duel was set. As the group headed outside, the 3-on-3 sparring match would be set. The rules were simple, no killing. They didn't want this getting up to the higher-ups and sparking some bigger conflict. Naruto, Kiba, and Koniko versus Ciro, Zenobia, and Irina. Kiba was already looking enthralled with the battle, and Koniko was ready to see what she could do. Naruto would group the two of them together as he looked at Kiba sternly. Look, Kiba, I understand you want to get at them, and I'm not trying to hold you back, but I need you to stay focused. Don't do something that'll potentially get you harmed or worse. If you can promise me that, then I'll look after you both as best I can. Kiba would nod. In the meantime, Ciro would take the golden cross from around his neck, twisting it in his fingers as it started to glow, before changing into his sword. Sacred Gear, Dragon Slayer, Ascalon. He has Ascalon? Rias would say nervously, and Akano sharing in that sentiment as well as Rainier. Asya being the only one confused. What's Ascalon? Ascalon, the sword known for being the Dragon Slayer. That sword was made specifically to cut down dragons of all sizes, no matter how powerful they are. You could say that it would be the greatest weapon that could counter someone like Naruto, since his power comes from the sacred gear, the Welsh dragon. So he has a Dragon Slayer sword, Naruto would say. Well, that's going to be tricky. The match would begin and would break off into individual battles. Kiba, using his sword burst, would create a multitude of swords, grabbing two with one in each hand as he charged towards Zenobia. Koniko with her wrist gauntlets would engage against Irina and her sword mimic, while Naruto would create a multitude of shadow clones, all of them with their kunais drawn and ready to go against Ciro. Let's see what you got. You asked for it. Ciro would hold his sword in the air as he went charging towards the clones, striking them down rather effectively, until Naruto managed to get behind him. "Now you're mine! Rasengan!" "I don't think so." Zero would use the flat end of the blade to block the Rasengan and send it back. However, 3 other Narutos had already finished developing the jutsu and were ready to launch. "Ninja Art! Wind Style! Wind Dragon Jutsu ×3! Vortex Hydra!" In an instant, a multitude of wind dragons went charging towards Zero. However, Zero would stab his blade into the ground. "Now I ask, grant me holy protection, protection against those of the darkness, darkness against those of the light. Those who will see two will strike forth. Now Ascalon, shield!" Ascalon would create a barrier blocking against the wind dragons. Naruto, seeing this, would have to try to kick it up a notch, as he would weave through the hand signs before yelling, "Fire Style! Fireball Jutsu! Wind Style! Wind Bullet Jutsu! Combination Style! Wind Phoenix Vortex!" In an instant, the fire and wind style jutsu would combine to form the fiery bird. Even though he didn't like Riser, he could definitely take a thing or two from him. The great flash from the explosion could be seen as the others continued in their fight. Koneko keeping her distance against Irina as she used her holy sword Mimic that worked like a whip, keeping her at bay. Irina would do her best to try to keep the fight at long distance, seeing that Koneko was a close-range fighter, and Koneko would take a few slashes to the arm. It was definitely not something she wanted to get tagged with. She would close her eyes and focus, remembering what Naruto taught her. Once she opened them, she would keep her eyes focused only on the sword, not on Irina or anything else, managing to get close enough as she used the Shuriken style, delivering a back roundhouse kick to Irina's shoulder. It would deal her a great sense of pain as she was forced to back away once again, with Koneko now starting to press the advantage. In the meantime, Kiba tried his best to fend off against Zenobia and her blade of destruction. "I thought you said you were my better, but yet all I see is you throwing at me your puny swords. Conjure as many of them as you like, but they do you no good." "Shut up! I don't have to hear it from you. I'll break Excalibur, no matter what it takes." "Kiba, look out!" Naruto would yell as Zenobia managed to get behind him, ready to smack the flat end of her blade against his face. Naruto would throw the flying Raijin kunai towards Kiba. Once Kiba caught it, the two of them would switch places almost instantly, with the Naruto clone taking the brunt of the hit and disappearing, before 2 more Narutos would appear behind her. They served as distractions, as one Naruto had stayed in the back, waiting. It had taken some effort, but now was his chance. Uzumaki style, sealing chains! From under the ground, the chains would emerge instantly, binding all 3 of the targets. They hadn't even seen this attack coming, and now they were left seemingly defenseless. That was until Zero called his sword forth, the sword flying to his hand as he angled it. With one slice, the chains were sent away. "What the? Those were adamite chains! How in the hell is he able to cut through them?" He freed his other partners as they regrouped, Naruto regrouping with his allies as well. "This isn't good. Their swords are much more powerful than I would have thought," Koneko would say. "It doesn't matter, we've got to find a way to get around them. I think I have an idea. They might have the strength, but we have the speed." "What? This isn't the real me, guys, it's just a clone. The real Naruto's been watching from the distance, trying to gauge a better way to win this fight. I think the boss is almost ready. I would try a genjutsu, but I doubt it would really work on them. And honestly, genjutsu's not my forte. But Kiba, you're good at illusions, so I need you to cast one. And I need you to fall back the moment that you do." Kiba would look at him. He didn't want to fall back. He wanted to press forward. Listen, this is the only chance we're going to have to win this. I'm going to need you to trust me. Kiba would nod and Koneko would listen to the plan as they regrouped instantly. Are you ready to admit defeat? Zenobia would say. You have no chance of winning this battle. Your cheap tricks can only get you so far. Well, allow me to show you one more. Naruto reached into his pouch and pulled out smoke bombs, throwing them down instantly. From out of nowhere, Kiba, Koneko, and Naruto would go charging in at the last moment. A distraction play, Zero would say. Well, I don't think that's gonna do you much good here. All three sword wielders would strike down their opponents. They all seemed to fall away and looked like they had been mortally wounded. However, what happened next was an instant poof of smoke and fog. Phase 1, Substitution Jutsu. It was a trick, Irina would say. I can see that. Stay on guard, they're going to be coming out with something else. Instantly, Naruto would come charging in. A multitude of Narutos from every side, all of them coming forth with Rasengans. Let's see what you can do. You can't block against all of us. That's what you think. Ascalon, Stage 2. Defense. Instantly, an energy dome would appear around the trio, blocking away all of the Narutos and sending them back. Once the dome was undone, Koneko would come rushing forth, seeing this as her opportunity. Oh no you don't! Now, Mimic! The sword of Mimic would grab hold of Koneko, forcing her down, weakening her. Naruto would come through trying to make the save. However, Zenobia would cut him off at the pass, hitting him in the gut and forcing him to fall to the ground. Finally, Kiba would come charging through, and Zero would disarm him, holding a blade to his neck. All three of you are beaten. Stand down, Zenobia would say. All three of them would look angered, before a wicked smile would appear. Actually, you're the one who's lost, Kiba would speak up. Funny. I'm not the one on the ground with a sword to my neck. Now, boost, transfer, power, transfer. Thank you, Naruto. With this power, I won't fail. In an instant, a blur would appear before the three. Before they had a chance to react, Zero would find himself on the ground with a sword to his neck. However, Ascalon was also pointed at his abdomen. That was close. You're pretty fast when you get a little boost, aren't you? The ones that had been captured would all transform back into Naruto before disappearing. Shadow clones? Rias would say. Both Naruto and Koneko would come out from hiding. Damn it! You were so close! Not bad, Zero would say. If I were anyone else, you probably would have had me. Although, you'll just have to be a little bit faster. So, what do you want to do? We're both set for a mutual strike if that's what you want. Kiba, Naruto would look at him. Kiba! Remove your sword. It's over. Yes, Zero, please pull away, Zenobia would say. With a bit of hesitation, the two of them would draw back their swords, backing off from one another as the battle had come to an end. It was a draw. Asio would rush out and treat those who had been wounded on their side. As the others put away their blades, Zenobia would acknowledge that the House of Grimmery definitely had power and they were not ones to be underestimated. Even Zero was impressed, as he tried to smooth things over with Naruto, although things were still pretty tense. I understand. I do apologize though, really. I didn't mean for my associates to cause you any harm. It's just best we forget about it, Naruto would say. Although I must say, for someone who can't fully use the power of the dragon, you definitely are impressive. Your skills, they're out of this world. You could say that again. Well, I should say as a reward for doing so well, I should give you some advice. The White One has awoken. You mean the Vanishing Dragon? Naruto would ask. I see, so you are aware. Then I guess you wouldn't be too surprised to see that you're in the presence of a dragon. What? That's right. Zero would hold Ascalon as it transformed back into the golden cross that he placed around his neck. You're in the presence of the Golden Dragon Emperor himself, the Master of Morgana. You? You have the Golden Dragon? Small world, huh? Well, I didn't think there'd be too much to it. I thought you would have sensed it by now. I had been informed, but I guess I really didn't pay much attention to it. But there's more to you than just your dragon. There's another power hidden inside of you. At least from what I can feel. You definitely give off a yokai vibe. I'd say between that and between those whiskers on your cheek. You're not from around these parts, are you? No, I'm from somewhere pretty far. Well, in either case, if that's something you might want to keep control over. I can't really tell for sure, but I feel like the two powers within you are at conflict. If it persists, you'll never truly get the hang of it. Of course, it's just my advice, you don't have to take it. In the end, the trio would leave, satisfied with what they had gained from that day. Kiba was not too thrilled, however. He would come to Naruto and would apologize. You wasted your power on me. I couldn't do much with it in the end besides draw. It's nothing to be ashamed of. That guy, he's a dragon like me. Everyone would be shocked to hear this, that they had been in the presence of the Golden Dragon Emperor himself. If the angels actually have the Golden Dragon Emperor on their side, then no wonder why things are getting so tense. You could almost say that things are starting to become an arms race between all three factions. What's next? Are the Fallen going to get their hands on the dragon too? Rias would chime in. Rainier would just be a bit more worried. That's the last thing they need. Getting their hands on the dragon. All the same, it seems like we've been able to avoid the worst for now, Naruto would say. However, things were not too lively as Kiba started to leave off once again. Rias tried to call for him, but he simply didn't respond. He was focused on what he wanted to do, and that wasn't going to change. She wasn't sure what she could do for him. After all, the last thing they were supposed to do was get involved in this matter. But at the same time, she and the others understood how much it meant to Kiba, especially once she explained to the newcomers about the Holy Sword Project, a horrifying experiment that Kiba had barely survived. What if all of us don't go after him, Naruto would say. What if it's just me? Naruto, I can't allow you to do that. Why not? If there's anyone who can watch out for him and keep him safe, I'm the best one for the job. Besides, our goals kind of line up if you really think about it. Those guys have to get back those holy swords or destroy them. They can't fall into enemy hands. I think, at most, A temporary truce. We hunt down the swords. If worse comes to worse, they can be destroyed. Naruto would give a bit of a wink. But do you really think you have the power to do so? And they have the Golden Dragon Emperor on their side. I doubt they'll let things go as easily as you'd want them to. Maybe, but in that case I can get us out of there a lot faster than anyone else. Let me do this. Kiba's going to want to see this through till the end on his own. And if he goes out wandering by himself, he could get killed or worse. There's no way you're going to be able to stop him. At the very least, allow me to watch his back. Koneko would also chime in. Kiba was her friend too, and she wanted to help if she could. I really shouldn't. Technically speaking, I'm not allowing any of you to get involved. Rias would turn her back. Rias? Naruto would ask. Like I said, I'm not allowing any of you to get involved, so I have no clue what you're doing or what you're up to. If you were to do something and I weren't looking, or if I don't catch you there, then you can't be really accused of doing anything now, can you? I understand. With that, everyone would set off, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Naruto was prepared to leave that night. He was going to be meeting with Kiba and with Koneko. It wasn't going to be easy, but he'd have to convince them all one way or another. It didn't take long for him to track down Kiba and Koneko, but finding the church trio was easier said than done, although they weren't too hard to find as they were in the town square collecting tithes for money. And well, they had spent all of theirs and they were really hungry. Naruto decided to treat them all to ramen, and they ate their full. Although they weren't really too thrilled about being in debt to devils, Zero would try his best to apologize on his friend's behalf, and he thanked them for the meal. So what's the meaning of this, Naruto? Zero would ask. I'm proposing a temporary alliance. I say the 6 of us work together, we collect the swords, and we bring whoever took them down. Irina seemed to be against it, and Zenobia wasn't too sure as well, but Zero would take the lead this time. Normally, his joking and perverted nature wouldn't allow him to be taken serious, but for Naruto, he was willing to listen. I think we can both agree that whoever has stolen them don't have good intentions for this town or for either of our sides. We don't have to like it, and we don't have to be friends when this is over. But I say we work together and we take them down. And how can we trust you? Zero would say. Well, I don't know any way you could, although I would like to think that my word is my bond, and I never go back on my word. That's something you can count on. Zero would smile at this. Is that so? Well, if I can believe that, then you've got yourself a deal. Zero, you can't make that type of deal, Irina would say. Exactly. Knowing them, they're probably just after looking to destroy the swords themselves, so that they're not harmed. Maybe, but that's not such a bad thing. We all know the truth behind how those swords were made. And even though you two use them, and I won't judge you for it, it's not something that I'm particularly a fan of. If those swords were destroyed, I wouldn't really care all that much. However, we already have our mission assignment. We're to either return the swords or destroy them. Those are our only 2 options here. And besides, if we're going up against what I think we are, we're going to need all the help that we can get. So, we'll accept your offer. If you're willing to work with us. Naruto would agree, as he and Zero would shake hands. Later on that night, Naruto would give a call to the new clientele that he had gotten with. his contractor, he wasn't going to be able to make it that night, but he promised he'd make it up to him another chance. His customer seemed to understand and wished him well, Naruto being thankful as he, Kiba, Koneko, Zero, Zenovia, and Irina would all meet up. It was time for them to go hunting. Hunting for the holy swords. However, before they left, Zero would look to Naruto. Once the two of them were in somewhere private, there was something he had to tell him. When this is over, there's a conversation you and I need to have. I see, but what's it about? Naruto would say. It's best if I tell you after our business is done here. I just ask one thing. Whatever happens, don't hold it against the church, okay? Naruto didn't really like that response. If it was something that bad that he could potentially hold a grudge, well, maybe it was best if he didn't know. But still, Zero was going out of his way to be peaceable, so Naruto would agree. With that, the six would begin their hunt. Their hunt for the holy swords. This concludes Naruto DxD, Rise of the Dragons. What if Naruto was in High School DxD? Season 2, Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned next week as we got a whole new slate of videos to show, as well as some other stories to continue, including this one with Season 2, Part 2 next Friday. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.